Hi, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know that I quite like a vocoder. A couple of months ago, I got out my beloved SVC 350 from Roland. Really nice vintage unit. And if you watch that, you'll have seen Daft Punk trying to take over the world.
Around the world, around the world.
As well as poor old Kelly having an out-of-body experience.
Can he watch the stars? Can he watch the stars?
And me saving the planet from a massive robot.
Only Starsky Clark can save the world. Intergalactic, planetary, intergalactic.
Previously, I've done some stuff on more budget options like the Digitech Talker, the Roland Boutique, the Microkorg and the Zills Lab. And now we've got the vocoder from Softube that was previously only available on the UAD platform. Now anyone can get their hands on it. And what I really like about this is the quality of the sound from it. It's got that sort of top end fizz and sizzle that I get off the vintage Roland that I don't get off anything else. And it's not based on the Roland, it's not based on anything in particular. It's got a lot of different band settings or bandwidths, for example, and I'll go through all this in a second. So not based on anything in particular, but it just has that real Softube quality, that real analogness to the sound. So let's take a look at it. Here it is in Logic, and it's on my brand new M1 Mac. And what I've noticed straight away on the Mac, it's not a review of the Mac, but I'm not getting any fan noise, which is really great. Normally I've got to go and try and get rid of any fan noise when I'm doing anything like this. Anyway, let's take a look at what we've got here. Obviously, as you can see there, it's resizable. All the Softube stuff is now, I think. And I'll just run through this really quickly. We've got different band settings. It's got its own carrier synth in here. Normally with a vocoder, you've got the carrier synth and you've got the vocal. You need to put them both in. On this, it's got one built in. It's really quite simple actually, but you really only want simple sounds when you're vocoding. Otherwise, everything just turns into a muffled mess. Then up here, we've got this unvoiced section, and that helps us with the sibilants, all the T's, the P's, and the D's, and the S's. And we've got a freeze function. I'll go through that in a second. We've got stereo, where it splits the signal to left and right on the different bands. Alternate bands come through alternate ears. And then down here, we've got the resynthesis controls. So they're your main vocoder settings. So I'll set all those back up on 0. And actually, I'll quickly just show you how to set it up. We go to a new track, and this is only for Logic. Let's go into Instrument. We go to the MIDI control effects and vocoder, and there we go, we've got it in stereo. Let's get rid of that, open it up. And what we've got to do is tell it where the audio signal's coming in, so we go to the side chain, and we'll go into the input, because I'm using the input with this mic. There we go. So I'm using this mic, and you can see we've got the carrier wave on down here. Let's just turn that off for a second. And this means that we can use it live. If I didn't want to use it live and I just wanted to use it on some recorded stuff, I've got some recorded vocals here. We'd go into Audio 1. That's the name of that track there. Let's just call it something else, vocals. Vocals, there we go. And then you can just play your MIDI on top. And I've got something here already recorded. Let's put that on this one, the new one I've just opened. And I've muted the vocal here because we don't want to hear the input signal. If we do want to hear the input signal, we can always use this blend here. But let's take that off for now. Play it.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down.
And I think you can hear there, it's got a real nice little sizzle to it. Let's go through each of the sections one at a time. We'll start off with this resynthesis control down in the bottom right. And I'm just going to set up some MIDI control on the key step. So let's just link this. If I speak into the mic, I'm not going to hear anything because I've got it on sidechain audio. I don't want it on audio. I want to put it on the input, and the input's input 2. Now when I talk, here we go. And let's just reset a few of these parameters here that have changed while I've been wiggling the knobs.
intergalactic, planetary, planetary, intergalactic.
Just got to do that again. I do quite like it, but I'll promise I won't do that one ever again. So what we've got down here, we've got 20 bands, 16 bands, 12 bands, 8 bands, or 4 bands. So let's have a listen.
This is 20 bands. This is 16, 12 bands.
And you can hear there, it's getting a lot more dirty, isn't it?
This is 8 bands. 8 bands. 4 bands.
So it gets a lot less natural, if you can have a natural sounding vocoder. 20.
We've got a much more natural sounding robot.
If you can have a natural sounding robot, that is. 16.
16, 12, 8, and 4.
So 4's really dirty, isn't it? I like that.
And a little bit higher, and a little bit higher, and a little bit higher. Let's go even higher.
And it still sounds quite legible, doesn't it? I've not done anything to this. I've just left everything on the sort of initial settings almost. Sensitivity and volume. Just put those back to 12 o'clock.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and we can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and we can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and we can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down.
So you can hear there, that's really quite flexible. You can definitely get the vocoder style tone you want, from really nice and smooth to really rough and raucous. Putting these all the way back to 0 again, just to show you what this spectral tilt does. So let's play it again.
And boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down.
And that's like a really basic EQ, and it's really quick way of dialing something into the mix. And then we've got this thing called emphasis, and that puts a resonance on each of the individual bands. So I found it seems like it sort of squishes the band a little bit. Imagine if it's got a resonant peak on it. So it sounds a bit thinner when you put the resonance up.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound.
So I find it makes things a little bit more legible. A lot of the time with the vocode, you get that sort of, that low mid, just a big sort of mush. And this is really nice.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and we.
But of course, sometimes you want it a lot fuller. Let's play this other little one. Another one you might be familiar with from the intro.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars.
And what that's doing, it's putting an individual envelope on each of the bands as well.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars.
And you can hear that's cutting out there, and that's because we've got 0 decay on the synth section. If I just put the decay up there.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars.
And that's a great little idea, because when you're using a vocoder like this,
Sit and watch watch the world drift by, in rain or shine. Watch people laugh and people cry.
Where the vocoder's making pads underneath the main vocal, you don't want all the sibilants, you don't want all those transients, and that just smooths everything out. Really nice touch. I don't think I know anyone else that does this. Maybe there's others, but I don't know, but I really like it.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. The stars. The stars.
I keep on saying it, but it does sound really good. It's so easy to dial in a decent tone. Anyway, let's take a look at the carrier synth section. Using the keyboard here, we don't need to use MIDI.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars.
And as you're seeing, it's got an attack and decay on the synth.
We can boogie down, down, up and down.
If you've got your decay up and you're playing a fast line, it all blends into one, just like it would on a synth.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound. Down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down.
Plenty of rhythmic opportunities to sculpt things there. And then we've got different wave shapes.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie.
Little bit of PWM.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound. Down, up and down. Can boogie down.
That's a bit scary, isn't it?
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound. Down, up and down.
Let's try the PWM on the slow one. It makes it sound richer and fuller.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. The stars. The stars.
Let's add a bit of chorus to that.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. The stars.
Again, it just sounds lovely. Hard to make it sound bad, but let's have a go with this pitch mod.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars.
Doesn't work particularly well with that sort of vocal. Let's try another one. Let's just do something live again, shall we? Put it into the input 2. Whoops, input 2.
If it's on, here we go.
Just turn these off for now. Turn the effects off.
Here we are. Okay, it's a bit more like a Dalek. I know the Dalek uses a ring modulator, but this isn't too far off. This is a little like a Dalek.
As I say, we all know Daleks use ring modulators, but that's quite nice, quite different.
I wonder what you would use this for. It really does add a lot of pitch modulation. Maybe a little bit less. Try it on a chord. What do you think it sounds like? I think it's rather nice actually, although I said it wasn't a minute ago. When it's just about 20%, I think it's rather nice. Let's turn it into
I'm saying let's turn it into a pad there. Let's put the parallel blend up. Let's turn it into a strange pad. I can't help but almost try and sing in tune, but I'm not very good at singing. Cool.
Let's put a lot of decay on it.
Anyway, that's what pitch mod does. It's quite nice, isn't it? So that brings me up to the unvoiced section. So there's loads to play with there. Next up's the unvoiced section, just two knobs there, sensitivity and volume, and these are for getting those sibilant tones, those little transients through. If I play you the Earth, Wind and Fire bit again.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound, down, up and down. Can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound.
S is coming through a lot crisper when I've got the sensitivity and the volume turned up. Sensitivity is a bit like a high pass filter, or is a high pass filter, or something that pulls the sibilances through, and then the volume just increases the volume of what it's pulled through, as far as I can tell anyway.
We can boogie down, down, up and down. The boogie sound.
Let's just play that sound over and over.
Boogie sound, boogie sound, boogie sound, boogie sound, boogie sound.
So that pulls things out really clearly, doesn't it? I'll look at the free section in a second. Let's just look at the stereo width for now.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. The stars. The stars.
And that's putting alternate bands left and right.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars.
Again, nice. Let's put the effects on that again.
Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. Kelly, watch the stars. The stars. The stars.
And finally, we've got the freeze section that freezes the synthesized tone at regular intervals. So we can do it on the MIDI note, for example. It'll hold the tone as I hit the MIDI note. So if I say vocoder, vocoder, vocoder. So I'm playing it at different times and we're getting a different sound. Vocoder. If we do that with the lovely Kelly again. Interesting, some nice pad options there maybe. Let's do it so it's rhythmic. Let's do it on the eighths. And on just holds it at that sort of synthesis, at that tone, or at that vowel, I suppose you'd call it. So I think I've got to the end of that there. There's loads of little bits and bobs in there, but it's really simple to use. As long as you remember, you've got, on Logic at least, you've got to use the side chain. Audio in if it's a track, or input in if you're going to do it live. Very nice. And I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell and all the rest of it. I don't like going on about it, but it's quite nice to have people support the channel, especially over on my Patreon page, where I've got hours and hours of tutorials helping you to get the most out of your synths, plus a few patches and samples and bits and bobs, but it's just really nice to know that people support what I'm doing here. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time.